Sorry. Okay. Hi, my name is Kira Obradovich. I am a senior partnership specialist and the team lead for Northern Illinois and Cook County. And I am here with my colleague Jamal Abed Rabo, and he is also a partnership specialist here in Cook County. And we are working to make sure that we are reaching out to all governments, community organizations, places like libraries and schools and everyone to make sure that we get the word out about the 2020 census, which is going live on Thursday. That is the beginning of our operation. And I'm sure you're all aware that there are going to be 3 ways to self-respond this year rather than 1. Traditionally, it was the paper questionnaire, but this time, for the first time ever, you can call in to one of our 12 languages plus English phone numbers, including a TDD line. Or you can also go online to our website, and that is my2020census.gov, and it is actually live right now. And we will, during this call, for sure, go through the questionnaire to make sure that if you guys have any questions on the questions we're asking, if I'm able to answer them, I would be happy to. But definitely want to point out that website to you. You can already go online even without having a census ID. So just to kind of start, I know that as libraries, you are going to be centers for people to come who need help responding to the census. You're going to be centers for people to come who need a computer to respond to the census or who would like to use a phone. So being able to provide language resources, being able to provide information on how to respond and how we can help others respond is definitely something we would like to be able to do for you all. So I'm going to go through what we call our mobile questionnaire assistance centers. And that is a program that we are beginning to start. And this would be the idea of anywhere someone may be going to respond to the census. And that's going to be a key component for libraries. And if you or any of your library locations would like to be involved in this effort, that is fantastic. And we'll have our emails sent out to you so you can get in touch with us so that we can provide information. And one of the first things that we're going to be able to provide everyone is a language assistance guide. We can find all of these as well on our website. Unfortunately, I apologize, I was not. We're having problems with our internet today and things are not downloading properly, so I have to go off of an email and I'm very sorry. But this is on our website as well, so you can, if you Google Census, 2020 Census and language resources, you can find a whole page. But we have 12 official languages in addition to English that we have included as our languages that the census questionnaire can be done basically in that language with a guide. And those are Spanish, Chinese, Mandarin, as in Mandarin, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian, Arabic, Tagalog, Polish, French, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, and Japanese. We also have an additional language guide with 59 languages available on our website. It will also be a language guide that is available when our census enumerators start to go door to door, so that if they come to a door where an individual does not speak that language, or one of the 12 where they can go online and use it or call, then they'll be able to use that 59 language guide, which will hopefully provide accessibility to those in order to respond. So in discussion of accessibility, one of our 12 official languages is American Sign Language. And we do right now on our language resources page have a link to an ASL video. And that is a guide in ASL, since that is a language. And there's definitely people within that community that is their primary language, not reading English, but by watching ASL videos. So we want to make sure that we're communicating in as many languages as possible. And on this sheet, it will also show the 59 languages that are used. And then it will also show, as you can see, sort of why we chose the languages we chose. The 12 non-English languages that were chosen based upon the fact that at least 60,000 households within the United States speak that language, where the 59 were, the criteria was at least 2,000. And so we definitely know that libraries are going to be a great place for many people to come, and we want to make sure that you guys have these resources. So let me pull up, I apologize, I went to the link here for, that should pull up. I'm so sorry. Oh my, okay, I'm gonna have Jamal find that link for me right now. I apologize, that should have been much easier to find. Yeah, okay, so back to the MQA. So we have language assistance available, and we also utilize a tool to figure out where low response areas are located. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with our map. It's called ROAM. It's our Response Outreach Area Mapper. And at the moment, it is a stagnant map that we have utilized data from the past 10 years, not only 2010 census, but the American Community Survey that we conduct yearly throughout the community, as well as then some forecasting based upon the areas we think are going to be a low response area. We use that for a lot of our preparation, but in just a few short weeks, that map is actually going to start to be a live map. So I'm going to take you to home just so you can see what it looks like. And this is a great tool. It's free. It's available to everyone. And you can really go in and see your regions and your areas and see where places may be hard, a place that most people don't respond. But not only that, you can actually get other details about those areas, especially details regarding whether or not someone rents or what languages they might speak. So for this, we will type in Springfield, which is one of our, the city of Springfield has been a great partner. I was actually their specialist for a while, and they've been quite active. So if you can see here, this is a map of Springfield that includes all of the census tracts. And when we zoom into some of these, when we click on them, the darker the tract, the lower the response score we believe we're going to have, the self-response. So the more that we're going to try to target those. So for this tract in Springfield, you can see that it says that it's 27.9% of a low response score that we forecast. You can see that there are a few different languages spoken here, including Spanish, as well as some who speak Chinese. And you can look at other factors that we look at when we look at low response, including how many have children. Children are one of our hardest to count demographics, especially between the ages of 0 and 5. In 2010, we do believe we undercounted about 1 million of them. So this is a really important thing if you're looking out into your community using this map. This is really an area to target with as much information as possible. So if you have a library located in this tract, then you can definitely look that up. So Rome works with cities. You can type in states, you can type in exact addresses, you can type in counties, and it will show you where your library is located and the surrounding areas to give you a good picture of what you're looking at. So this is a good tool, and like I said, this will become live once we start to get some of that self-response data in. And so some of this will change. This is our prediction, but we will be getting real-time updates very soon, and that will be available to you as well to use to see in your areas where we need to highlight. So using that, we're going to, and I tell this to people a lot, we're a very, very flexible, fast-moving operation, whether it's issues with being able to download documents to show you, or it's issues with having a meeting, or it's issues in the field. We are fast moving and have to respond and make sure that we are covering every area. So you may be called upon by one of our partnership staff to ask, look, we weren't expecting your area to have as low of a response that score as it does now, but we'd really like you to be able to have a space, to have a computer available, to have a place to put some information out for people to be able to know about responding to the census. So one of the key points of all of mobile questionnaire assistance is that since you are not official census representatives, so you do not work for the United States Census Bureau, one of the key points is if anyone were to come in to ask for help, you need to make sure that you let them know that. Because Census Bureau employees are tasked and swear an oath to keep all personal information and any information they collect for the Census Bureau private. And if you do break that, you could be subject to a $250,000 fine and 5 years in jail. So we do take that very seriously. We are sworn to that for the rest of our life, not for how long we work for the census, but rather for how long we live. So if you do have staff that comes to help, which we are hiring many census response representatives to be able to send out to events and to locations, they will definitely have a badge that will show that they work for the U.S. Department of Commerce with their name, with the Census Bureau. And they will also have polo shirts. And so that way you are aware of the fact, and I know that this document says teal shirts, and I'm hoping just in case, I just want to give you, just in case there are other colors for some reason, I want to make sure you know it will be a polo shirt. So you will be able to identify that. And that, in addition, if you have any questions as to whether or not they are official response representatives showing up at your library, you are more than welcome to contact myself or Jamal, and we can definitely reach out to that local office and make sure that that individual in question is a part of the census. As well as if you have any other issues, you're more than welcome to let us know. So we really are starting this section of mobile questionnaire assistance is really going to start starting on March 30th through the rest of the response period. So the response period, go back here. Okay, I apologize, I don't have that up. I just have that on paper at the moment. So I mentioned March 12th. That is our official date for self-response. So that is the date that the phone numbers that we have where you can call will be operational. And that is the date in which the online response is officially set to begin. But as I mentioned, we got it up early, and that's great. So moving on from there, however, there will be a period, that period will last for both the phones and the online all the way through the summer. So all the way until the end of July, you will be able to respond by those two manners. Now, we will also be sending out a letter to invite people to respond. That is all sent out beginning March 12th. This is a copy of it you can see on your screen. And this shows, this is a very rough draft. I guess there's a lot missing because it's not quite official, but it has the census ID number on there. You can see where that would be, as well as it has the website, and there will be a space for the phone numbers. So every single dwelling in the United States that we believe someone is inhabiting independently, so not part of a group quarter, which would be a dorm or another, a jail or something that is managed by an organization or a company, if you have a dwelling, you will receive this letter. So with this letter, we will continue to send out additional letters. We send this out, and if you have not responded, then we will begin sending additional letters. We will send 5 total letters to everyone, but after the 3rd mailing, that is when we begin sending the paper questionnaire. The paper questionnaire will be in English and Spanish, and that will come out to the households that we do not see that have self-responded by the time the 3rd mailing goes out in April. So I wanted to get you dates on that. I'm trying to scroll over to another computer where I have that pulled up. I apologize, hang on one moment. Okay, so March 16th will be the 2nd letter that is mailed out. March 26th, everyone will receive a postcard. And then on April 8th through the 16th, everyone will be sent out a reminder letter and a paper questionnaire that we have not heard from. And then from April 20th to 27th, a final reminder postcard will be sent out. Now, after those 5 mailings, if you have not responded by either paper or the other 2 ways of self-response, we begin what is called our non-response follow-up. We call it NORFU. That is when we send census enumerators to everyone's door. And I cannot stress this enough, but self-response is the most important way to respond to the census, not only because it helps us with our data collection, it makes things much simpler, but also because it negates the need for someone to come to your door. And there are a variety of reasons why individuals may fear or do not want someone to be at their door. So if you self-respond, as long as you complete that questionnaire, you will not have someone coming and knocking at your door. And that's really key. And I think even moving in right now with the coronavirus and everything else going on, it's a great way to make sure everybody gets it done on their own and we don't have to send someone to your door. However, there are people who absolutely, it's easiest, it's most accessible for them to have someone to come to their door, and we are more than happy to send someone. So we have enumerators that will begin going out near the end of April into May through the end of July, who will attempt to knock on doors up to 5 times to get those responses. They will bring iPads with them. They will not have paper questionnaires at all. And that is a really key thing to tell your constituents and your community members, is that there will be no paper questionnaires that the people at the door will have. It will be an iPad. So if anyone comes to the door with a paper questionnaire, that's not the Census Bureau. And if anyone were to come to the door to ask, personal information such as your social security number or your driver's license number, that is not the Census Bureau. We do not ask that information. So those are really key things as well. And if you hear of any of that happening, please do let us know. So then once, if any of you have decided, already that you'd like to be a place or you'd like further information, that's definitely something we would like to be able to provide you, but I would really like to go through as well the website for response. So the website for self-response is live right now, and it is my2020census.gov. And as you can see here at the bottom, there are the different languages that you can click on to go through in other languages like Russian. You can click on Ruski down here. Oh no. We got out of the meeting. Okay.
Maybe while we try to reconnect, Kira, I know that you had responded to a chat question that came in about whether if somebody loses their census ID number, if they can still do it.
And shows. Could you listen in to make sure?
Okay, folks, I guess this is going to be sort of an unplanned little 2 or 3 minute break while we try to reconnect them. As you heard earlier, they're having some internet and connectivity issues at their locations. Sit tight, and hopefully we'll get them back here in a couple minutes.
And I apologize. We have a lot of security measures here, so if anything scans through at any time and is not up to snuff, they will disconnect some things. So we sincerely apologize. We want to keep all the information safe.
I was going to say, on behalf of the whole country, I think I can say I'm glad there are plenty of security measures in place and things are a little bit locked down. So I think we can live with that. Kira, are you able to just kind of, in case people didn't see that question that came in, and maybe you're going to cover this later, like if somebody comes in and says, I lost my census ID, what do I do?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I know that at the beginning, and I know prior to this, there was a lot of talk about the census IDs that will be printed on all of the letters going out, and it will be assigned to each dwelling. For the first time ever, you do not have to have a census ID to respond. So that's a really big deal for us. I'm trying to get it to work. Okay. So that is a really big deal for us. You will see when we get into the questionnaire that you actually can click and say that you don't have your census ID to respond. Now, ideally, using that ID really does help us because it allows us to get that information and take that information much quicker because we know exactly where you live. We know that you received the letter, and so it's much easier for us. However, it really opens up the possibility for people that don't have homes, who are experiencing homelessness or who are temporarily staying different places and don't really have an address to call home, to be able to respond and answer all the questions. We, of course, still have our group quarters count. We are working on that right now. We'll have our count on March 31st, the 1st, where we go out and send teams to count people who are experiencing homelessness. But in the meantime, since libraries in particular are great places for people to be in during the day when they don't have somewhere to go, anyone there is able to respond online or by phone without that census ID. So if someone comes, just say, do not worry, you can respond without it. Jamal is working on trying to get us back in. So if there's any other questions right now, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, so Kira, what was were you going to show the questionnaire next or something else?
Yes, so I was going to show the questionnaire.
Maybe what I can do here is just share.
Oh, you could even show them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Share my screen here. Can you see that?
No, we can't. It's frozen basically right now, I think.
Where you are. Okay.
But if you pull it up, I can pull it up on another computer because I'm on my own computer as well, and go through it with you guys. And if you can just click through it, is that a possibility?
That's fine. If I can just have somebody, one of our participants, just in the chat or something, let me know if you can see on your screen the Welcome to 2020 Census website.
Yes. Okay.
Q&A or the chat, however easy is. Okay. Yes, it looks like. Okay. So Kira, I am on the first kind of Welcome to the 2020 Census page where it says start questionnaire.
Yes. Perfect. The my2020census.gov.
Yep.
So in here, if you want to do it by English, you can simply continue and click on Start Questionnaire. If you would like one of the other languages at the bottom of the screen, then you'd be able to select that. And that will take you to the census in those languages.
Okay.
So if you want to, you just click on that Start Questionnaire and we'll continue in English.
Okay, we're there.
Okay, now I'm going on my phone right now because I think our computers or my computer is frozen. I apologize. Okay, so at this point, it talks about logging in, and I am not a fan that they use this term because I think logging in implies having an account, which we don't really have. This isn't something where you're creating. And by the way, if anyone finds something where it's asking you to create a password, enter your email and create a password to create an account, that is not the 2020 census. However, it might be another census survey they've received. We will be doing that American Community Survey in April that we do every single year. So that could create some confusion, and I apologize. And if anyone has a question as to whether or not what one of their communities has received is an official census survey, please don't hesitate to let us know. So on this page, you'll see where you can enter your 12-digit census ID. And so if you have it, that's fantastic. If you do not, you can click on if you do not have a census ID, click here. So we'll click on that.
All right. Now we're on the next page.
So this is an important fact. April 1st is Census Day. Now, and I'm sure you're all aware, this does not have to be the day that you respond. However, this is the day that you need to consider when you're responding. And really what you need to consider is, where am I living for a majority of the year? And if you are living in you're going to be living in an apartment all year long, or you're going to be living in your house all along, this is very easy. You just put in where you live, and you're going to live in the United States, somewhere else, we can continue. But if you're not, if you're going to be in any type of different setting, so let's say you are moving on March 30th, or let's say you are a snowbird and you go back and forth. Or let's say that you are a child and you live between your grandmothers and your mothers, or between your fathers and your mothers, or your mothers and your mothers if you have divorced parents. We have a lot of different living situations. So the rule that to end all rules is where you are living for a majority of the year. But if not, so let's say that you are split 50-50 between two parents, and that child then needs to be counted where they're living on April 1st. Or let's say that at the moment you live in this home, you really don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year. Then it needs to be that place that you're living on April 1st. If you're a snowbird and you spend, November through February in Florida, then you do live most of the year in Chicago or wherever else you live. So you need to make sure then that you are responding with your address in Chicago. So, is anyone unclear on that? Does that make sense to everybody?
I think so. No questions that have come in yet, but all of you, as I said in the chat, feel free to use the Q&A if any questions do come up. Do you want me to click on one of these options, Kira, or?
Yeah, so we'll click on U.S. state. I just wanted to go through April 1st. Yep. Click on that.
All right.
So then this will ask you to enter an address. And so we would enter in, if you have an address and you have a street name, you have a number for your dwelling, you have a city, you have a state, you have a zip code, then you would do that. Now let's say that you don't. Say that you live, under the underpass of I-55, and you want to enter in something like that, or an alternative place of residence, then you would select that. I do not have a street address.
Okay.
And so if you select that and go forward, it's going to see if you might have a rural route address instead. So you can select yes or no. But on that, that would mean, do you have an RR 101 box? And please, if you do, please provide that. So we're going to, and I know that you guys serve, are we all the way, are we on? Oh, okay, I think we're back on. Okay, hang on. Let me get over to the other computer. Okay. All right. Jamal, share screen. Okay. Oh, okay. So, Joe, if you'd like to stop sharing, we can share again now. Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, no.
Jinx it.
Oh, Joe, so sorry. Never mind. That was.
All right, false alarm. That's okay. We'll.
Wow, I am so sorry.
That's
okay,
all right. We will easily switch back to.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so we are on the page that says
the rural route address.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you did, then you would select yes. You would enter that. You would go to the next page, and then you would enter that rural route address. And you would then try to also provide as much information as possible as to, do you have a street address associated with that? Or do you have an address associated with it for any sort of emergency services? If you get a package delivered, please provide that information in that box at the bottom. So let's go back one screen to the do you have a rural route address, and let's select the no. And, the assumption then would be that if you don't have an address or a rural route address, you might be experiencing homelessness. So if that's the case, you would select yes, and you would go forward. So then here is where, you enter where you live on the streets, or where you spend most of your time, or if you're in a shelter, we will do shelter counts as well, but you're also welcome to provide that if that's typical. So then what you would do is you'd put in the city, the state, the zip code if you know it, and then a location as to where you might live. If you're, staying in in a bus stop on a certain corner, or if you are camping, or if you're living in your car in an abandoned parking lot of an abandoned building or something like that, that would all be information you'd be able to put there. So then that would essentially be your address. So we will go back to will you be experiencing homelessness on April 1st, so back one screen.
Yep.
And then it's interesting on here because if you select yes or no, because not everybody that doesn't have an address or a rural, an RR is homeless or might not consider themselves homeless. So you do have the option of selecting no, I'm not experiencing homelessness. And if you go to the next screen, you'll see that it's still the same question. Right. Describe, where you're living. If it's not homeless, if it's a home that really is not. There are a lot of different types of dwellings and addresses in the United States. Working for the Census Bureau, you'd be shocked at how many different ones. And so at times, those factors, those descriptions don't fit the bill. So we have that option as well to put in any information as well for that one for the address. Okay, so let's go back to the address, the regular address one. And
okay, here they are.
We can just enter, one Main Street or whatever you'd like. Yep.
Sure. Right. All right. So we're currently on the please review your address.
Okay. I got to catch up with you. Sorry, I'm on my phone.
Oh, yeah. Longer, but,
yep. Okay. There we go. And you'll see too, it fills in, which is nice.
Yep.
The suggested city and state and zips. So that's nice. Okay. Okay. So then it asks you to review the address. If it's correct, then you'll go ahead and click submit. If not, obviously revise. Now, the reason on this next page, we'll ask the name. The name is really important. The reason we ask the telephone number is if we believe there's an error on your census questionnaire. So let's say you leave a bunch of things blank. Let's say that more than one person in that household tries to go on to respond. And so we have 2 or 3 or 4 even separate questionnaires that people have done online. We have to make sure that only one person is responding for each dwelling, and that's really key. So if that's the case, then we'd need to reach out to someone in that dwelling who has responded to the census and say, hey, one of you needs to be the only one to do it, so please go back, have one of you answer everything for everyone, and then that is the end. So because you don't have accounts, as I was mentioning, if there is a mistake on your census or if someone else has responded as well, that could be an issue that you're then going to have to go back and go back through the whole thing again. And I know that's kind of annoying and people get frustrated, but it's pretty short. And we do hope that if that happens, they will be able to make sure that one person is responding per household and fixing that. So if you put in your information and you put in your phone number, and for instance, I skipped the middle name because not everyone has a middle name. And I also, in my last name, actually have an apostrophe and a capital B. And I am happy to note that it took it. So that makes me happy. So to get to the next screen, are you on household questions?
Yeah, household questions. Yep.
Okay, great. So you would start that part of the questionnaire. You click start.
Yeah.
So this then is including yourself, how many people are going to be living or staying at your address on April 1st, or like we talked about for the majority of the year. So this is anyone living with you. It does not matter if they are on the lease. It does not matter if they are related to you. It does not matter why they live with you. Nothing matters except that they sleep there, they live there, and that is who needs to be counted. And there is, as you can see, for more information on who to include, click here. So throughout this, there is information about answering each of these questions. So let's, put in a number for how many people live there.
All right.
For the purposes of this, though, let's just do 2. So
Okay.
there's questions regarding everyone living there. It'll make our lives a little easier as we go through this.
Okay.
So then we'll go to the next question. So they already have your name, but they need, in addition, the other person living. So we'll just say John Smith or something. And then you can, okay, oops. Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm trying to spell that.
That's all right. So I added a second name, and now we're on the screen that says, do not want to miss any people who might be staying at.
Right. So the reason we ask that twice is because we really want people to understand that this isn't about who is registered to live there, who is even allowed to live there. This is really about who is actually living there and who is actually in need of the services that the community provides, the services that the grants to those communities, that the money that goes to the governments that provide, the schools that we need to have in those areas, all that data, as well as representation in government. We have to make sure that we've got everybody counted to divide that fairly. So they asked that one more time. So let's, for this purpose, let's say that actually there were some people we forgot, because now that we think about it, we do have an uncle living with us, so we can have a third person.
Okay. So I checked yes, and another box for name appeared below.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
One question, Kira, real quick, that somebody asked is what if people are renting in a large building? Does each apartment respond, or does the landlord respond for everyone?
If you're renting in a building, you will have your own. So if you receive mail, then you will get your own in your box. That's a great question, though. So really, with group quarters, we are looking at places like dorms, jails, and nursing homes, places where people with disabilities might live who need intensive, more full-time care, rehabilitation service centers where people live. So really, where if it's managed and operated, your day-to-day living, so not just talking about the building itself, but where you live, so your bedrooms or your actual places that you stay, as well as the food that's provided, those types of things, often factor into group quarters. And what we can do definitely, and after this meeting, I'm going to have Jamal email out a bunch of information regarding group quarters. So if anybody has any questions, we've got some good overviews of what that entails. But for the most part, if you have your own dwelling and you receive mail, you're going to receive a letter from us, and you're going to be asked to respond with that address.
Great. Okay, so I've gone on to the next question of on April 1st, will the house, apartment, or mobile home at, and then we have some options.
Okay, great. Yep. So the first one is if you, the person responding, so they know who you are, as we saw that it took into account the fact that you were the one that was responding, you would say that owned by you or someone in this household with a mortgage or a loan. So if you're still paying off the house, but you own it, you would click that one. The second one, owned by you or someone in this household, free and clear, so there's no mortgage, there's no loan associated. You are fortunate and you have paid off that house, then you'd select that one. And if you rent where you live, you would select rented. Or if you occupy without payment of rent, so if you're living with someone for free, or if the place in which you live is being given to you to live in for free. So if a family member has a carriage house or an apartment, or an extra piece of property that they're willing to let you live in for free, you would select that. So we will, because I think many will for this purpose, we'll just select rented.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're on the next screen.
Okay.
So of the people who will be living at this address, who will rent the house, apartment, or mobile? First.
Now, right. So who rents it? So in this scenario, the best bet, at least for all of you to see it visually, is to click on help. We're selecting the people basically that pay the rent. Or if you had selected, owning, but you have a loan or a mortgage, it would ask you who pays the loan and the mortgage. Or if it paid off, I actually need to check that one. I still need to go through that one. But I believe if it paid off, it asks the same thing. Same with if you yourself are occupying it without payment, is someone else living with you paying it off? So who is financially responsible basically for paying for where you live? And then, sorry, the second one answers the second question I had because I hadn't gone through that yet. But so if no one pays rent, that who's living there, or let's say you had a parent or someone else paying your rent, you select none of the above. So if we close out that one and go back to the question, let's say that the first person pays the rent, or whoever you want to select. Select one. You can select more if all three or two or whatever share the rent, but you can select none of the above if none of them pay it. So select a name and then go forward. So you'll get, you'll see there then that we've completed the household questions. Now we move on to the people questions. And each person kind of has their own portal there. You can see, you can start, you can even remove people at this point. So if you've started to realize that maybe this one person isn't going to live there most of the year, and it's starting to dawn on you, oh, actually our lease is up in May and our lease is up in April and my roommate's moving out. And so that means, May through the rest of the year, they're actually going to live somewhere else, and that is more than 6 months. Then that's definitely something to look at, and then you might remove them.
Okay.
But for the purposes of this, we're just going to start on the first person and click start.
Okay. I do just want to, before we go on pause, I know that we had originally sort of promoted this or let you guys know it would go till 11. So if some of you have other meetings to get to.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no problem. We can continue on here for a little bit longer, but I just want to say for those who have to leave at 11, go to the reference desk or wherever you need to go. We'll again be recording. As Kira mentioned, all the sources I guess they'll share with me that I'll make sure to get it in. So just wanted to say that. So go ahead, Kira. We'll keep going.
Yeah, of course. I'll try to see some stuff up with the questionnaire, but I definitely want to get through that. Okay, so it's going to ask what the person's biological sex is. So here is something that is unique this time. Instead of only recording this as two answers possible, we're actually going to record this question as 4 answers possible. We're going to record that data because we are sure that some people don't identify as either sex, or might identify as both, or have, different identifications of their own biological sex. So in that case, this online option will allow you to select both male and, oh no, this is,
maybe not
yet. It
yet.
did the other day for me. Not yet.
Okay.
It might not be live. I was going to say, I know that you could do this on the, I have a feeling it's not going to work until the 12th. Okay. But the idea is that you can select both male and female, or leave it blank, or choose male or female. So for the purposes, just choose one and go to the next.
Sure.
Then you have the date of birth that they ask you. So if you put in a date of birth, and this definitely helps us get that data that you saw in Rome, where it shows, you might have seen on Rome, or you will when you go in and look. It'll show, how many people are, for instance, senior citizens, or how many children do we have living in the area. So then it will verify and ask the age.
Yeah.
It'll show what it thinks. Yep. Okay. Go to the next one. So then it's going to ask you if you are of Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. So if you are Puerto Rican, Cuban, Mexican, Chicano, Mexican American, or not of Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin, you have a box that you can check for each of those. You also have a box that you can check for another Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. So for instance, if your family comes from Colombia, you can identify as Colombian. And if you are more than one, so let's say your grandmother is Puerto Rican, your maternal grandmother is, your paternal grandfather is Dominican, then you could select both of those.
I see. Okay.
Okay. Or
right.
Yeah. Now I will note, and you will note, you'll see, if you select any of them, you cannot say that you're not Hispanic. So if, for instance, one side of the family is not Hispanic at all and the other one is, you can identify as Hispanic in general there. So, okay, going on to the next question.
Yep.
It asks about race. So in this, you can also again select, you can actually select all of them if you identified as all of them. And if you're into genealogy, you might, that might be part of what you select. But for white, you are welcome to describe what ethnicity you are, what your ancestors were, where they came from, what country. If you're Black or African American, you can identify there, American Indian or Alaska Native, as well as if you scroll down, different types of Asians, people coming from other places that are not listed. As you can see, they have other boxes that you can then specify exactly where, or as well as some other race if it's not included. So we'll select one and we'll go on to the next question. Oh, and it does ask, okay, so it does really want you to put in, because I selected white, and so it wants your heritage. Yep.
Okay.
So then go on. So as you'll see here, then you would do the exact same thing for all three.
Yep.
So because I don't want to go through all of them, we're just going to remove the other people that we added.
Yeah, I actually went ahead and did that.
Yep.
So it looks like we're on the final questions.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So it asks you one more time.
Yes.
Because we changed it from 2 to 1, including yourself. How many? But even if you hadn't changed it, it's going to ask you one more time, yes or no. One person's going to be living there. Go to the next. And do you as an individual usually live or stay somewhere? It's going to ask that again because it wants to make sure you understand that usually concept. So if you are realizing, well, actually, I'm attending college most of the year, you would select that. That's going to flag that in our system because that's going to show that you actually need to be counted somewhere else. So that's sort of another way that we're catching people that might think that they live at one place, but they actually live at another, especially with group quarters. So you'll see right down here pretty much all the group quarters. College, military assignment, like if you're stationed somewhere, nursing home or group home, jail or prison, or a snowbird. So that's a big thing. So for our purposes, and we're going to select no. And then, so that would basically be the end of it. Don't click submit questionnaire.
Right, yes.
So you can edit again while you're on it, but you cannot edit after you've submitted that questionnaire.
Right.
If you've made an error, you have to go back to the start.
Okay. All right. It looks like we've gotten through the end of it. I will, there are just a couple questions that came in, Kira, that we wrap up. I can just ask, do you know if there is a way for someone wanted to print options, or would they just have to simply do a print screen and kind of printing their options out, but they've selected that?
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out there. One more time.
I'm sorry. If there's an option to print your response.
Oh, I do not believe so. As far as I know, that once you click on that next screen, and we had a demo going for a while, once you clicked on the next screen, it took you to thank you for completing. It did not have a way to print. So my best advice is when you're filling out then those answers would be to print the screen.
Got it.
Each time, if you wanted that, or save it as a PDF. Yeah.
Right. And then the other question, sorry, when we have that question about heritage, where it does, if I select white and then it wants me underneath to kind of type in my heritage, do you have a sense of what people should respond if they just don't know what their heritage is, which I could certainly see that happening.
You can absolutely type in "don't know."
Just don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or don't want to answer. You know, if you're selecting the race, and not everybody is going to know, especially people who might be adopted.
Exactly.
You know, or who donor egg or whatnot. So we want to make sure. Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's a good question. And
okay.
There's another document I'm going to be sending that has the guidelines for questions and answers for stakeholders supporting the 2020 census. So that's kind of the guideline for how everyone can help people respond. But most of it is just that you can help people, but at at most, the most that you are able to allow them to respond for themselves, the better. So that's really the way to look at it. If someone needs help typing or reading, or calling, you know, dialing the buttons or anything like that, you are more than welcome to help that with that. But we just need to make sure that they are, to the best of their ability, able to respond on their own. So.
All right. Well, I think it was, I know we'll need to wrap up now, but I think it was very helpful for us to actually see, rather than kind of speculating or hearing about what the questions would be, what they would look like, to actually walk through it like this. So, so thank you all for being on this webinar, for being patient with us. You know, I know it took a little while, but luckily we were able to get you all a view of this. As Kira mentioned, I think we'll share some resources that I can be sure to get out to all of you. Any final words, Kira, of advice or information before we sign off here?
Just definitely check out our 2020 Census.gov website and click on partners. There are outreach materials there. There are hundreds of guides and posters and information you can share, social media toolkits, media information. Really, almost anything you can think of is on there, as well as our language resources, which then allow you to print out guides in multiple languages. There's an ASL video, there is a large print guide. We're waiting on the Braille guide to go up. So really, please check out our website and look at all those different tools. And if you have any other questions, and if you guys would ever like to have another meeting, we'd love to do a Skype meeting sometime. And I apologize, because I know my colleague had thought we could use Zoom, and I think that when they approached me today about it, I said, I'm not quite sure if that will work with our security. So. But we learned. We learned, so I apologize. So if you'd like any more information or any other meetings, if you'd like to talk, we have partnership specialists assigned to every single county of the state. So if you would like to have someone on the ground living near you, working near you, to help with any of this or answer more questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll let you know who your partnership specialist is.
Great. Okay, thank you, Kira and Jamal. Thanks all of you again for your patience today and for tuning in. We'll be sure you have access to the recording and the resources. Thank you all for your efforts in the server on the Census, Braille, to your partnership specialists. There are resources to help. So with that, thanks again, and I hope everybody has a good rest of your day.